online. Bill, do you have a statement to make? Hopefully the mayor is appearing online.
He's not currently here.
Sorry? Matt did too. He's going to feel really popular.
Thanks for the council's patience. It takes a little time when usually we try to have it set up before the council meeting starts, but they weren't able to do that this time. He's for roll call.
Sometimes the panelist code can get lost in your email.
Hi, Mayor. It's Krista. Are you able to get in? Oh, okay. Okay, so okay, Cindy, what is the link he's supposed to be, the mayor is supposed to use?
If he goes to the town website, hi Mayor, go to the town website and click on the council meeting, and then you'll see the link. It's about halfway down. It ends with like 55105, something like that.
Okay, I must have gone to the wrong one.
Yeah, you may have gone to the
Rejoined on
meeting.
the old one. Yeah,
Exactly.
I think he totally cleared it these days, but I will give it a
Poor
note.
guy.
Okay,
So if you click on that link, I'll promote you to panelist.
thank you.
Okay.
Okay, be there in a minute.
Poor man.
I'll let you know as soon as he arrives. It sounds like this. I could push that by mistake. There he is. Okay.
I need to have some chamomile tea now.
Okay,
Relax.
so I was just saying, Bill, do you have a statement to make for why you are appearing online?
Yes, I do. Okay, here's my statement. I have COVID. I've been diagnosed with COVID and it is still infectious. So I've chosen to remain home and not expose anyone else. Plus, I'm not feeling all that well. And I am participating from my home in Ross 24 El Camino Bueno, and no one else is present with me.
Thank you, Bill. We hope you feel better.
Thank
Number 2, posting of the agenda and changes to the agenda. I have 2 changes to the agenda. First, we're going to move item number 7E, which is the 2023 Marin County Multi-Jurisdictional Local Hazard Mitigation Plan to follow the administrative agenda. And second, we will be continuing item number 8, which is the Ross Recreation update, to our September 12th meeting. Does anyone else have any changes to the agenda? Okay, thank you. Number 3, open time for public expression. This is limited to 3 minutes per speaker on items not on the agenda. Does anyone in the audience want to make a comment? Is there anyone online, Cindy, that wants to make a comment?
There are no raised hands online.
Thank you. Number 4, mayor's report. Bill, I'm assuming that you are not making a mayor's report, so we will go to number 5, council committee and liaison reports. Any council member have a report? Terry?
I do. The Transportation Authority of Marin met on June 25th. I was there representing Ross and was joined by Councilmember Matt Salter, who is an alternate. The first 2 hours consisted of a workshop to help establish a countywide transportation plan. The second 2 hours was the monthly business meeting. There was an informational presentation on the Sonoma Marin area rail transit, SMART, most people know it by, and an update on a mobility hubs planning grant. Some key takeaways were that SMART has been fully restored. The weekday service levels, they've expanded SMART on the weekends. They've implemented free field trips for students K through 12. They began free pilot program for youth and older adults and launched a microtransit pilot project at Larkspur Station. So if you take SMART to Larkspur, there's a little transit shuttle that will take you to the ferry building, and on weekends, it will take you to the shopping centers nearby. So that's my report. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Anybody else? Matt?
I have one report. I met with the CEO of Marin Clean Energy today for lunch, and they gave an update on Ross's participation in Marin Clean Energy. We have about 80% of our residents are users of the utility, and they would like to increase that in public awareness. So I invited them to come and have a table at the next Live on the Common. So, and I'm sure many of you are aware of Marin Clean Energy, and anyway, it's I'm hoping as being a director on the board now, we can try to promote it a little bit more with the 20% that aren't. And we had a good laugh. I said that's probably, we get two more people and we get up to 90%. But anyway, it was a very nice chat, and I encourage any council member who wants to attend a meeting there. It's a wonderful utility, and really just a mark of, climate change in action, and what we can all do to support that is being members of Marin Clean Energy. And they really are setting the standard for what that utility alternative utility to the major PG&Es and Edison Electric, et cetera, in the state.
Great, thank you, Matt. I have one thing, just a reminder, I'm hoping everyone has this on their calendar already, and that is September 18th, Wednesday, at the Marin Art and Garden Center in the studio. There will be a meeting with Mark Brown, the Executive Officer of the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority, and Kathleen Cutter, who leads the Defensible Space Inspections, along with the Barber Winship Firewise Neighborhood Group and the Bald Hill Neighborhood Group. Krista will be there, Dan Mahoney, Ross Valley Fire Chief will be there, Rob Bastion will be there, Chief Pata will be there. And we had a similar meeting about a year ago. The speakers were not as high level as we have managed to snag this year, so we're hoping that we'll have at least 100 people. It's from 5 until 7. The program will be from 5:30 to 6:30. We're also having vendors for Vulcan Vents and Gutter Guards and Fire Safe Marin, and Defensible Space, so that residents can talk to actual people who will help get the work done. And there will be an article in the morning after.
And have you sent out a town notification?
Not yet, no.
Okay. I would also, maybe we have RPOA here, maybe they can also help promote it as well.
Yeah, we're going to start promoting it on September 3rd. Yeah, thank you, Diane. At the studio at Marin Art and Garden. Yeah, which is wonderful. All right, number 6, staff and community reports. Town Manager Krista Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, council members, and Mayor Kircher on the Zoom. I have a few updates for you this evening. First, I wanted to give thanks to Donna Redstone, who is our part-time office specialist, and she is here because we're doing some cross-training with our town clerk, Concord office. So she'll be here this meeting and also our meeting in September. And then in October, she is going to be our acting town clerk at the council meeting while our town clerk is on holiday. So thank you for being here, Donna. I'd also like to introduce our new college intern, Charlotte DeForest, in the house. She is a rising junior at UCLA and is working full-time for the town during the month of August. She is mainly working on planning department items, specifically housing element implementation items. It's super fun having her around Town Hall, and we're really appreciative of the work that she is doing. We plan to continue our internship program, and we are currently recruiting for a part-time intern to continue assisting with the implementation of the housing elements action items and other projects. The recruitment information is posted on the town's website and has been sent out far and wide to colleges in the region. So if you know anybody, want to pass it on, please do. You may have noticed the lovely fence that the Dodge family built along the Ross Common via an encroachment permit at no cost to the town. It replaces a chain link fence that the town installed there many years ago. The property owner matched the fence to the town's fence by 6 Redwood, and the Dodge family has agreed to maintain the fence in perpetuity too. So I want to thank our Public Works Director, Rich Simonich, for working with the resident on putting that together. I think it was a real win-win for everyone. In other Roscommon news, the shed that was recently approved by the town council was installed 2 days ago. It looks great and it blends in with the surrounding foliage. I want to thank RPOA because they made a commitment to pay for half the cost of it, and I think it's $6,000, $7,000 for that contribution. So I very much appreciate that contribution by RPOA. And I think it looks great. All the goals and stuff that you used to be able to see kind of sticking there in the ivy are going to be put behind the shed, so we shouldn't be able to see them. So that's kind of the plan. And let's see. Oh, you may have noticed that there was a small parklet was installed by our Public Works staff to the left of the post office. It's a small area consisting of decomposed granite and an age-friendly bench installed on a small concrete pad facing the lawn. This project is part of the 2021 council-adopted Roscommon landscaping plan. Fire season has come on strong here in California. We continue to find cars parked illegally on roads that may prevent access by emergency vehicles. The Ross Municipal Code requires there to be 12 feet of unobstructed roadway at all times to allow access by emergency vehicles. 5 signs reminding drivers of this requirement were recently installed at locations as folks enter town and as they go up Winship or as they go along Bridge, kind of coming in the town limits. And then during the month of August, our police officers will provide warnings to violators and other education, but that is going to soon transition into enforcement. So it's definitely an important thing, and we've been working on that, and hopefully we'll make sure we keep that clearance. The 3rd annual Wildfire Prevention Festival, that's called Ember Stomp, will be held on Saturday, September 7th, 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Marin Civic Center. Admission is free. And lastly, school is starting up this month. Ross School begins on August 20th, and Branson begins on August 26th. Both schools have various teacher trainings, orientations. Branson has a lot of different sports stuff going on that have already begun. And so we're starting to get back. Everybody needs to pay attention to younger people that are cruising around on bikes and walking, and just to be aware. There'll be a lot more people in town. And that's it for me. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Krista. Ross Property Owners Association, Diane Duda.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. The Ross Property Owners Association did not meet in August. We are on vacation for a month. But I do have a less detailed report for you this evening. There are two projects that are currently under consideration. One is a project to plan and refresh the flowers around the post office. RPOA's board president, Jeff Koblick, met with James Gray, who is an organic farmer, land steward, and aspiring rancher in Pangea. He's also co-founder of Sophie Farms, Sophie James Wine, and co-owner of Live Ticket Group regarding the project. So he's there, he's working with us. Michael Yandel has previously said that he would potentially create a plan for the area and offered to do it for free. We are hoping that that offer still stands because that would be wonderful. The Property Owners Association has about $20,000 that is going to put towards the execution of the plan, but that's where we're going. The second project is regarding the Ross Common grass field areas that need upgrading. Based on the attached, there's a picture, but I don't have it for you, comprehensive 2018 report. I believe the council members have this report, but I don't have copies for you this evening. It was made by Turf Culture LLC on the Ross Common grass field renovation and our preliminary investigations. Several areas of the Ross Commons grass fields can use upgrading. The area near the blacktop where the portable buildings were located is in the worst condition and has poor drainage. This grass area can greatly be improved for $250,000 by removing the concrete, gravel, and clay under the field, then installing adequate drainage, adding new topsoil, and replacing the grass. Town Manager Krista Johnson, Public Works Director Richard Simich, Public Works Manager Anthony Alcozer, and RPOA board members Peter Solar and Jeff Koblick met to determine viable options to move ahead. The next step is to get proposals from landscape, architecture, and engineers so as to ascertain what happens next. There is a report, which I mentioned, that's available for you to see. So that is our report for this evening. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Diane. Thank you to RPOA for all the great work you guys are doing. Consent agenda.
Oh, sorry, one question for Diane Duda. Do you know when the next Live on the Commons is? Do you know the date?
I don't have the date
Okay.
now. I know it's a work in progress, but I don't have the date.
Okay, thank
Steph.
you.
I think I can answer that, Councilmember Salter. I believe it's the first Friday in September. I think that's September 6th. They decided not to do it in August and instead do it in one in September and one in October. October is October 18th.
Great. Number 7 is the consent agenda, and we're pulling item E from the consent agenda. Does any member of the public wish to pull an item from the consent agenda? I know. Or anyone on Zoom?
No one on Zoom.
Does anyone on the council wish to pull an item from the consent agenda?
I'd like to pull H, please.
H, okay. Anybody else? Okay, with that, could we please have a motion to approve the consent agenda items A, B, C, D, F, and G?
So moved.
Second,
Thank you.
Councilmember Dowling?
yes.
Councilmember Salter? Yes. Mayor Pro Tem McMillan?
Yes.
Councilmember Robbins?
Yes.
Mayor Kircher?
Yes, aye.
Vote of 5, the motion passes.
Great. Let's take up 7E first, which is the resolution number 2432, approving the Town of Ross Annex for inclusion into the 2023 Marin County Multi-Jurisdictional Local Hazard Mitigation Plan. Rich, did you want to take that?
I was planning on doing that at the administrative agenda, but I can do it now.
Oh, okay.
That's what you're trying to say.
Got it.
I understand
Okay,
now,
so
yeah.
we'll do H now, and then you can be next.
That'll be fine, thanks.
Okay. Elizabeth,
So H is to authorize $58,388 for civil engineering services related to the Allen Avenue project. And I wanted to discuss it just to make sure that we're really approaching this project properly. We hadn't even thought about the project until it was brought to our attention at the April 25th budget workshop that there was a safety problem on Allen Avenue. And the safety problem is just that people walk and bike on it, and there isn't a sidewalk. But we haven't, and so we certainly want to address any safety issue. The proposal that was made by the neighbors there was to put up a curb, which might or might not mean that the parking would be not allowed. And there are probably 14 parking spaces all the way the whole length of the street. So I think we want to be really careful that that we address the safety issue, but that we don't automatically say, okay, we're just going to put a sidewalk and lose all the parking. Not that I want it to be like children's safety versus parking, but if there really are 14 spots there, those cars are still going to be in town. They're going to go further into the neighborhood or other neighborhoods or into town where parking is tight. And I hope we can look at this so that we can try to get everything we want. That is, maybe a wider street, still with parking, and maybe, the kids are biking more than they're walking. Maybe there's a striped bike lane and not necessarily a curb, because a curb would be only pedestrians and not the cyclists. So I'm hoping that we can have a really careful look at what's the safety issue. Oh, and the other thing is, of course, keeping, there aren't a lot of cars in that neighborhood. There are only 16 houses there. But keeping the Ross parents from dropping off on that street, that could also be something that we could address. So I think we want a really broad look at how we address safety issues at the same time that we address improving the street, but perhaps keeping whatever we can keep in terms of parking and make it safe for everyone. What are your thoughts, Rich?
Thank you, Councilmember Robbins, Mayor Pro Tem, Mayor and council members. So yeah, we are taking a look at this project on a phased approach. And the consultant has structured his proposal with the phased approach where we do a little bit of surveying. We don't really know where the right-of-way is exactly, and I think there's an opportunity to take advantage of some underutilized right-of-way where we could do some pavement widening and come up with a couple of alternatives after the, I think it's the second phase of the proposal, where we'd bring it back to council with our, kind of our ideas based on a little bit more neighborhood outreach, public outreach, and we can go from there. I mean, the proposal is a kind of a TNM phased approach, and I've done this with Mo Engineering before, where yeah, we made it to the first couple phases, but we didn't go the full contract, and that was perfectly fine with Mo. We closed out the contract with several phases undone. So that's Mo Engineering is very flexible in that respect. So I think we can bring something worthy to council with I think maybe 1/3 of the expenditure of this contract, and then we can decide to go from there whether we want to go to final engineering.
And one other thing to consider is there's the fence that the school put up, but this benefits the school and the children, of course. They might be willing to move that fence back a little bit and give some of that space to the road widening.
Right,
So
and we want to look at that as well, whether it's actually encroaching into our right-of-way or not. And there are PG&E facilities within that fence, and there may be some Office of State Architect requirements of fencing and this stuff. So that's the kind of stuff we need to find out, whether we can utilize that right away. And then the right of way on the other side where there's an open ditch, maybe we can fill in that ditch, put an underground storm drain, widen the pavement that way. I'm not a proponent of putting in a curb like we're doing on Laurel Grove. I don't think we have the room really to do that. I don't think it's necessary. So again, we'll come up with some alternatives and present them to council here in a few months.
thank you very much.
Any other questions on this item? Any public comment on this item?
Well, just one item. Rich, I'm just curious, when you selected this firm, just who they are and sort of just, if you wouldn't mind, just because I'm new, your process and what you normally do when you select a vendor.
Sure. And I described it a little bit in the staff report of, Mo Engineering is very familiar with the town infrastructure. They've been working as a consultant for Public Works since about 2005, I believe. And then John Mo was actually Public Works Director for a few years, just prior to me coming on board. And then when I came on board, I met with John extensively to kind of download all his information and get me on the right track, me and the town manager at the time. So they're a good firm. They do work for Belvedere, Tiburon, also, all the smaller agencies that can't really afford a full-time engineering staff. I chose to sole source them. I think it's the best way to go in this instance. I don't always do that, especially for the larger capital projects. I will do an RFP process for a consultant on those. But these smaller roadway projects, Mo has provided the town with good service.
Thank you.
Any public comment on this item? Anybody on Zoom wishing to speak?
There are no raised hands on Zoom.
Okay. Can we please have a motion to approve item 7H on from the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Councilmember Dowling?
Aye.
Councilmember Salter?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem McMillan?
Aye.
Councilmember Robbins?
Aye.
Mayor Kircher?
Aye.
With a vote of 5, the motion passes.
Thank you. Now we are moving to item 7E, which is the Town Council to adopt resolution number 2432, approving the Town of Ross Annex for inclusion into the 2023 Marin County Multi-Jurisdictional Local Hazard Mitigation Plan.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, and Mayor Kircher, and members of the Town Council. Yes, tonight, staff is recommending that the Town Council adopt resolution number 2432, approving the Town of Ross Annex for inclusion into the 2023 Multi-Jurisdictional Local Hazard Mitigation Plan. I have a brief PowerPoint presentation, and then I'd like to introduce Stephen Torrance, the Director of Emergency Management at Marin County Fire. The Office of Emergency Management has agreed to come here and give us a few words. I do have to say that the Office of Emergency Management was instrumental in providing most of this information and compiling all the information that's in this very extensive and comprehensive hazard mitigation plan. We couldn't have done it without them, and symbiotically, they couldn't have done it without us as well. So just the amount of resources that Marin County provided in this process should not go unnoticed. So I will do my presentation here. If I can find it, there it is. Okay. No, well, he'll go to the podium when it was ready, yeah. Okay, so brief overview of the 2023, I'll just call it the Hazard Mitigation Plan, to be brief, and this is kind of an overview of my presentation as well. So the plan consists of the description of the planning process, the process that all of the member agencies and Marin County went through to compile the information, find out what the different agencies want to, how they want to approach their own hazard mitigation within their agency, and pull it all together. And next, we're going to look at the hazard and climate-related facts and data. We're not going to go into a deep dive on this. I just wanted to stress that this information is available in the plan and how staff is going to be utilizing that information moving forward. We'll also talk about hazard identification and risk assessment that was developed during the planning process. some mitigation strategies and goals, and finally, the plan adoption, monitoring, and evaluation process. So first, the planning process. So we developed a steering committee of members of member agencies who had to attend the monthly meetings. Me, your Public Works Director, was the steering committee member for the town of Ross. And what I did is I came back to our own department heads, which is the hazard mitigation planning team, which consists of our town manager, administrator, the police department, and the planning director, and got the information from the steering committee meetings, and we developed the Ross Annex plan that you're seeing tonight. And then there was coordination with stakeholders and other agencies and public outreach earlier this year when we distributed the draft plan to the public and put it on our website for comments. I did receive a few comments, helpful information on that. We implemented that into the plan. Then the plan contains a lot of hazard and climate-related data, very helpful information that the staff will use moving forward. Mean regional temperature information, a lot of demographics, land use, and housing, specifically for Ross, and a bit of information for Marin County as a whole in addition to that. And discussion, definition of critical facilities and how they work into the mitigation of hazards. Then kind of I think the meat of our agency annex into the plan is these, it's actually, I believe, 11 different hazards that we looked at. Dam failure, debris flow, drought, earthquake, flooding, land subsidence, sinkholes, severe weather, including extreme heat, extreme cold, which we don't really deal with too much, and then severe weather consisting of high winds and tornadoes. Well, high winds is what we deal with a lot. Wildfire, and then there was also element for tsunamis, which we don't really worry about as a non-coastal community. And similarly, sea level rise is something at least we don't need to worry about within the 5-year period of the plan that we're looking at tonight. So how this all came together for the town of Ross, we can look at this chart. It's basically, we have the different hazards that we identified for the town of Ross, and then across the top here, we have these different categories that are provided a different weighted score to the hazard itself, and that produced a risk score. The higher the number, the higher the risk to the town, based on the steering committee's, you could call it a subjective view, and like for instance, so the top risk is flooding, followed by wildfire. And I think the difference why wildfire may not have beat out flooding in this instance is because the climate change influence for wildfire I consider to be medium as compared to flooding had a high climate change influence. Now, argumentatively, that should also be high too, which would throw that to maybe a tie with a 16. So it's somewhat subjective, somewhat objective, but I think it does fairly well represent the town's exposure to these different risks. The lowest being the land subsidence and sinkholes, although we're starting to see some sinkholes around town. They're not a widespread hazard to the town itself, and that's kind of what this whole plan is really looking at. Dam failure is, because it's such a severe, it would be such a severe catastrophic event, although it's very unlikely that it's going to happen. and the geographic extent is limited to basically the floodway. It got a low score, even though it would be a very severe impact to the town. So this chart is
Rich, can I ask a
available.
question?
Yeah.
So I was really surprised. I had never really thought about the dam failure until I saw the report. How does Marin Water interact with you or talk about, like, how do we know that they're maintaining the dam?
Yeah.
Because I'll just add one other point to that. There was a lot in there about these atmospheric river events, which we know are more and more common.
Right.
So when they showed the flooding that could come from and the mudslides, et cetera, from the dam failure, I was like, wow.
Yeah.
That is a real risk. So
Yes.
do they interact with the town, and how do we sort of monitor, make sure that it's safe?
Yeah, good question, council member. So every year, the Division of Dam Safety inspects all of the dams in California, and they provide a report to the owner, which is the Marin Municipal Water District. That dam has consistently been considered safe and no or very low risk of failure. I think about 20 years ago, they lowered the spillway elevation by 8 feet, which lowered the level that the water can get in the dam as an additional safety measure to prevent against a seismic event that might shake loose the dam. So they're actively aware of the concerns of Ross and San Anselmo, Larkspur, everybody who may be influenced by dam failure, and they're doing a pretty good job of monitoring. And I think about 5 years ago, they started installing monitoring wells up on top of the dam, and you can see them when you're walking up on the top of the dam by the lake. All these little risers that are coming up. That's how they monitor the groundwater elevation, which if that started to rise, then you get the liquefaction effect. So they're continuously monitoring, and again, the state of California does come out and evaluate that dam and all the other dams in California.
Mayor Pro Tem, Mayor Kircher has his hand raised.
Yes, Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. I had a question about the table that indicates the entry. I think it's the last one. I've sort of lost it on my screen, but it's that the contribution of climate change to wildfire was considered moderate. But I attended something that the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority put on, and Julie McMillan was a key person in organizing that, where basically the gist of the presentation was that the warming climate is resulting in a longer dry season and a shorter wet season. So we might get a lot of rain, but we get it all in a more compact period. And the longer dry season that we get, compounded by the winds that we get in the fall, has potentially resulted in vastly increased fire danger and fire behavior, including behaviors we just haven't seen, like fires burning at thousands of degrees and spreading rapidly and creating their own weather systems. So, I mean, my impression was that that climate change is not just moderate, but maybe more severe. Anyway, I was wondering whether you had any feedback on that.
Yeah, Mayor, so the evaluation of wildfire, again, I think if I looked at it, I may boot that up from medium to high, but my thoughts were that wildfires are going to happen. I mean, we've been at risk for wildfires for many, many years. And it may have increased a bit here in Ross, but I just felt that flooding in the atmospheric rivers and the high intensity storms, the frequency of the high intensity storms is on some metric more influenced by climate change than the occurrence of wildfires. Again, it's a subjective view, and I would have no problem booting the medium climate change influence for wildfires up to high. I think there is a good argument for that.
I would agree with Mayor Kircher that it should be high. And the program that he's referring to is Daniel Swain, who went to San Rafael High School, and he has a PhD from Stanford on climate change issues. The talk he gave was atmospheric rivers are going to get worse, but wildfires are going to get worse. And you can watch his presentation, which is really interesting. It's available on the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority website. And it's largely because of the heat that is drying out the fuel, and these atmospheric rivers produce tons more fuel, and then you have the heat that dries it out even more, coupled with fire suppression and living in the WUI. It's a bad situation.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, moving on then with the presentation, just a few more slides here. So the plan, again, introduced some mitigation strategies and goals and kind of defined what those are all about and how they can be implemented. So the plan identifies strategies for enhancement of the capabilities of the town staff in legal and regulatory applications, general plan policies, admin and technical capabilities, fiscal outreach, and our CRS NFIP program. So what this means is that the plan has provided the information and the structure so that we can take that information into our upcoming general plan revisions, any other hazard or emergency response type documents that may be done, our fiscal policy, and definitely the CRS, which is our FEMA Community Rating Service System, and the National Flood Insurance Program process. I fell back on that document a few times in our recent CRS annual review, and the document also used our CRS results from 2012 and put that in the document as well. Mitigation goals are generally identify long-range policy-oriented goals and objectives. They're generally non-specific basic desires of the community. They're achievable but future-oriented, time-dependent, but not necessarily scheduled. And we have I'm not going to go over them tonight, but we do have a list of mitigation strategies and goals for the town that I do need to review those each year with council for our CRS program. So I'll be bringing those up for discussion each year, and we can amend those as kind of a living document. So the plan adoption, monitoring, and evaluation process. Cal OES reviewed and approved the draft hazard mitigation plan on May 2024 and subsequently submitted it to FEMA. The FEMA review was approved just last month in July 2024, and now we bring it to all of the member agencies, bring it to their councils or boards, governing boards, for adoption of their own annex and community profiles into the comprehensive multi-jurisdictional local hazard mitigation plan. Monitoring and evaluation as we move forward. So Marin County OAS leads the hazard mitigation working group, and that's Steve Torrance and his group. We plan to meet quarterly with agencies to review and manage projects and programs, provide an annual one-day mitigation summit to educate stakeholders on mitigations, trends, and new plan requirements. And then town staff is going to work with admin and council on priority programs and integrating into planning documents, policies, and possible future ordinance changes. So that concludes my PowerPoint presentation. I'd like to bring Stephen Torrance up and give a few minutes overview on the county's participation in the program. Stephen, thanks for coming.
Thank you very much, Mayor Pro Tem and Town Council members. Thank you very much for having me. I do want to say, first, Stephen Torrance, Director of Emergency Management for the County of Marin. I do want to thank staff here with the Town of Ross for us to be able to get to this point to bring this to you. I do want to stress that this is a document that was not easy for us to put together. We were one of the first counties in the United States to actually approach FEMA with a multi-jurisdictional document. And with that, in December of 2023, FEMA pretty much changed all the rules. And so climate change was something that was very new. That was a new requirement of the plan. In addition to that, a lot of the community outreach and equity considerations that are built into this plan are also very new. And so with that, we approached this document with the steering committee, really looking at this as a very high-level document to make sure that we can collectively reduce risk throughout the entire county as a whole. As FEMA has kind of changed their policies on what they are expecting of these multi-jurisdictional plans, they're also looking for jurisdictions to be in the mitigation spaces. That is determined by them to be a lot cheaper than response. And so with that, that's where they're looking at these documents as those core elements for us to tie to our general plans, tie to our planning documents, to make sure that as we are building or responding, that we have the ability to understand what our assessment or what our risks are up front. Really looking at this, really looking at this document, we too believe that this is a living document. And with a lot of the new climate considerations, we want to make sure that we are looking at them and consistently monitoring the data that's coming in. And so with those working groups, that this is not one of those documents that we are saying it's done, put it on the shelf, and we'll revisit it in the next 4 years. But those working groups are going to be ongoing consistently, so we can take that new data that's coming in, whether it's from climate change or from new planning and developments, and include that into the next iteration of these plans. And so with that, we're going to consistently be revisiting that. We were actually talking this morning with our staff to really try to figure out, is this a quarterly cadence where we are working with the cities and towns and special districts to bring in that new information? And then also, in the event that there is an incident, we want to learn from those incidents so we can include that in this plans going forward. So as your Public Works Director mentioned, being able to look at the graph and the assessments that are there, we did have some internal conversations of where do we see as climate change impacting various things. And so those conversations led us to put things at medium and high in certain locations. And some of those were based on long-term projections and short-term projections. So looking at the atmospheric river component where we are consistently being hit, we are seeing that those things are happening faster, whereas with wildfire, we're seeing that is a longer term. And so we did drop it just a little bit, but that is also something that we looked at as far as time and then intensity for some of these events. And so with that, we are going to consistently go back, and as we see, the storms that are coming in, the fire seasons that are coming in, we do expect to adjust a lot of these assessments as we have more information that's coming in. But we do want to build this off to say this is where we believe our baseline is based off our historical information. So for within the county's base plan, you'll see that there are historical references to our major events, the declared disasters that are within the county. Many of them are flooding right now, and so that's where we do see flooding as our higher risk for us. Whereas fires do happen, but we have resources within the county to contain them a little bit more, and that is also factored into that space. So I do concur that it is something that we are consistently going to monitor, but that's where we have brought these assessments together in that space. In relation to why we decided to do a multi-jurisdictional plan, it is a lot more labor intensive, but on the back end, when the county and the cities and towns and special districts can collectively propose projects, those are the things that FEMA looks at and they are willing to fund first. And so with that, we have taken on the opportunity to make sure that in the event that one jurisdiction is doing mitigation efforts in relation to, let's just say wildfire, that is something that we know that we can go to the Cal OES and we can go to FEMA and say, we have a county-wide project to actually reduce wildfire risk. And we know that there's an appetite at the federal level to fund those projects instead of the cookie cutter, one jurisdiction doing it one at a time. And so with that, within the annexes that each city and town has, you'll see that there's a project for each hazard. However, within the county's plan, you'll see there is a number, I believe it's over 100 various projects for the different hazards. And with that, as the notice of funding opportunities come to the county through the state, we will reach out to each local agency to see if we want to build out a plan to make sure that we can bring those mitigation dollars in through FEMA. And we will support the agencies, making sure that we can collectively draft those grant proposals. So each jurisdiction is not being tasked with submitting and competing against our neighbor jurisdictions. We want to collectively go in as the county, or not County of Marin, but Marin County with these jurisdictional projects. And so as we continue to move forward, we do have additional hazards that are non-natural, man-made hazards that we also assessed in addition to sea level rise and tsunami. Those are not necessarily required by FEMA, but we knew that they had a direct impact on the community. So if there were a major power outage, we want to know what that impact can be, what type of facilities are impacted. And that will help us hopefully translate into mitigation efforts coming in to support power, backup power for certain locations, and also trying to figure out how we can increase the capacity of our facilities throughout the county. Just one of the last couple of things, this is, although there are, and I keep mixing up if it's 16 or 17 at this time, but this is the first time we've had every city in town with approaching a adopted hazard mitigation plan. And with that, the next step that we've built by having all of these adopted plans, we've already taken steps within the county to bring in every special district. So we'll be able to apply for grants to make sure that the school districts, the fire protection districts, police districts also who own that infrastructure can apply, and we will help them write a similar plan. With our collective goal to be that every special district government agency in this county to have a multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan. And that way we have every agency is covered, but that allows for the most mitigation dollars to come into into our county. So that is where we are going with these plans. This is one of many, but it is one of the most important things that each jurisdiction has a plan, because not only can you guys apply for grants independent of the county, but in the event that the county is and surrounding agencies are providing for grants, we can all make sure that those mitigation efforts are impacting the residents of the town of Ross. And so with that, I definitely if there's any questions for me, I will be here for a moment.
Thank you very much. Any questions?
I have a question. So we were just talking about the dam. It seems like we're in Marin County, especially, we're all very small jurisdictions, but everybody has some piece of the critical infrastructure. Sorry, somebody has a piece of the critical infrastructure. Can you just talk about, once this plan is put together, how, let's say we get the funds, et cetera, like how are there the checks and balances to make sure everybody's doing their part to secure the infrastructure and make sure that the mitigations are put in place?
Yes, and so our role, we refer to ourselves as the operational area. That is our way of making sure that people know that we are not just the big C county, but we are supporting every single jurisdiction. And so we do work directly with Marin Water and all the other water and sanitary agencies within the county to make sure that as those projects can be funded either by federal dollars, that we are working with a multi-jurisdictional lens. And if there is a multi-jurisdictional project that's being proposed, part of that scope of work details responsibilities, authorities, and duties for each one of those partner agencies. And so as funding comes in, the county can be, in some spaces, be the fiscal agent that allows for us to pretty much fund those various projects. And then also, as we go through, as a condition of those grant requirements, we need to make sure that everyone has their information completed before we can close those projects out. And so there are a lot of checks and balances that are going to be linked to the funding coming in to make sure that the projects get done. But in addition to that, as we really go through and start working with those partner agencies, we work with Marin Water all the time. We have every single response plan for every dam in this county to make sure that in the event that there is a floodplain, first, we want to know where that water will go. And that translates to the types of alerts. So we have, for instance, the shaped files within our Alert Marin system. So in the event that they have a dam failure, they know one of their subject matter experts will call our duty officer, and we can send an emergency alert, as Rich mentioned, to that floodplain area to help let people know. But we also want to make sure that we're providing resources to them to harden their infrastructure with those mitigation dollars as well.
Any other questions from the council? Any public comment on this item? Anybody online?
There are no raised hands online.
So now we need a motion to approve item number 7E, Town Council to adopt Resolution 2432, approving the Town of Ross Annex for inclusion into the 2023 Marin County Multi-Jurisdictional Local Hazard Mitigation Plan.
I would like to make that motion.
Thank you, Terry.
And I would also like to say how much I enjoyed this report. It was well-written. It was interesting and exciting to read, actually. Look forward to seeing how this works moving forward. So, thank you.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
Councilmember Dowling?
Yes.
Councilmember Salter?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem McMillan?
Aye.
Councilmember Robbins?
Aye.
Mayor Kircher?
Aye.
The vote of 5, the motion passes.
Thank you, Stephen and Rich. This is an excellent document. I totally concur with Terry. It is wonderful to read. So thank you for all your time. Great. We are moving on to number 9. No action items. First, any council correspondence? All right. Future council items. Anyone have anything they want to propose for a future agenda?
Well, I still do. I wonder, I would like to suggest that in September, we have an item that is the status of the paramedic authority station and fire station, just so we can have an update and be able to ask questions since it's on the agenda.
Does anyone else second that item to be on the agenda? I would second it, but it seems like it might be a hypothetical. It kind of depends on when we get the paramedic report. So I would support putting something on the agenda once we get the report.
May I add, please, Mayor Pro Tem, is that one thing that the council will need to discuss is the lease with the paramedic authority, which ends September 30th. So I can work with the town attorney on the best way to have a discussion with the council in that, whether it's a closed session or combination or something.
Sounds good. Anything else?
I have one item I wanted to talk about, which is something that I was hoping we could do more of, was to recognize members of our community that we wanted to give a commendation, a proclamation, et cetera. And I would throw this to our mayor, of course, but I would really love for us to try to recognize community members that we think are really contributing.
We do have a provision in the code that allows us to do that, and the most recent person that we recognized was Robert Smithton for going around and picking up trash constantly, literally twice a day. But I totally welcome that. And I think we should all be on the lookout for, looking for people who we want to give accolades to.
Yeah, and sorry, how do we do that? Sorry if anyone knows the process.
There's, Ben,
Say it's in our rules, the document, rule of procedures. It's section 5. I encourage you to read that. It has it in there. We can't talk about the item because it's not on the agenda right now, but feel free to reach out to me if you have a question about the rules.
Okay, thank you.
With that, we are adjourned. Thank you very much. There was at the very beginning. There was open time for public expression, limited to 3 minutes per speaker for items not on the agenda.
You know, can we allow for, we moved it to the beginning, it used to be at the end, so that we moved the item of expression to the beginning, so members of the public wouldn't have to wait until the end of the meeting. So I know, but I'd ask the council, can we make an exception? Because obviously we have a member of the public that did not know that, and this has been changed.
Ben?
The mayor, Mayor Pro Tem at this point, at her discretion, can reopen the meeting and reopen public comment.
Okay, I will do that for you. Could you please come to the podium and state your name and address and make your public comment? Under 3 minutes, please.
I have a hard time hearing through the system. I hear your voices away from the microphone, but the system is like,
Oh,
it's coming in blurry.
I'm sorry.
Okay, my name is Patrick McGregor. I live in Ross on 81 years old. I'm a veteran and I have memory problems. I know where I live. It's Poplar, 35 Poplar. We've probably heard of 35 and 35A Poplar. Anyway, I'm a retired Navy captain, 38 years in the Navy, 2 wars, Vietnam, Desert Shield, Desert Storm. And my big concern was Tuesday night, I was walking my dog, come around the post office, started down, an explosion went off. It seemed like over in this area, like an aerial explosion, kaboom, sounded like a bomb. And then as I walked on down towards the pizza place on the corner, this black car pulled up, new car, real flashy back, red lights in the back. 3 young gentlemen got out, very well dressed, and I'm about where the newsstand is, just walking away from the post office. I didn't pay any attention to it. I'm walking my dog. All of a sudden, they're setting up something, and then kaboom! This flash went off, this thing went up in the sky, and then boom! It just shook everything. I'm a combat veteran, Vietnam, Desert Shield, Desert Storm. It freaked me out, and I tried to get down there to get license plates, numbers. It was a black, brand new car, kind of a small station wagon that just head out on the back street, behind the pizza place, around by the beauty parlor, turn left. And I just couldn't believe it. I was just having a problem, shaking and everything. So I got home, all the people, my neighbors, everybody was out. My elderly neighbor that lives next door, she went and hid in her bathroom. And my young couple in a house in front of me, different address, new baby, she was just holding her baby. She was so scared. And people were out in the street. Police came by, woman, and she seemed to me very indifferent about the whole situation. I said where the car went, gave her a description as best I could see, and she drove around and said, well, I didn't see anything, and then that was the end of that. So whatever, and these were, in my opinion, these were like Ross Marin kids, privileged, and it happened over here, probably in the parking lot, and then the big one that I happened to run into. And I don't know what the police are doing about it, but I didn't even hear any comment in this whole time here. That was a big deal, and it's not just me, but it was a big deal. And it just, I'm so sorry to take your time, but I would track them down, just like the kids on their electric bicycles that tear up you talk about fixing the park and the drainage. Well, why don't you guys come out about 9, 10 o'clock tonight and watch them go up and down the street, Poplar, with no lights on, and then they tear through the parking lot, into the park, and then where that wet spot is and that low, which you guys were commenting on, the drainage and everything, they just tear that up. That's their little escape route. And they live here. And it just,
Thank you for coming and taking your
it's just-
time. We appreciate it. But your time's up, 3 minutes.
yeah.
Thank
And then
you.
I live, with the Allen Park behind me. And that's been a disaster since I've lived there for 20 years. And then there was this plan to fix it and doll it all up and make paths. People storm through there and dirt bike. I have to close all my back windows and back doors to keep the dirt from coming in. No one in this town has done anything about the Allen Park situation with the dirt and the dust and what goes on back there. Between the toilet that you all put up and the tennis courts is a disaster on the dirt, not the path.
Okay, thank you.
So
We appreciate your
I'm
comments.
sorry to bring in complaints, but I live it every day. And it's just nothing, this is about the third time I've been here over the last 20 years, and nothing has ever been done. I feel very frustrated with the town of Ross. And I love it in many ways, but officially, it's very frustrating, Thank you.
Thank you for your concerns. Thankfully, everybody in this room, you have the police chief here, you have the head of public works, and you have the town manager, and we've all heard it, and hopefully we'll come back with some improvements and suggestions, and we appreciate you sharing your concerns with us.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Okay. Now we are officially adjourned again. Thank you.